So it's fair to say not everybody was happy with the Spa-Francorchamps round of the season. It was a pretty dull affair both in the race and also during the sprint, but could it have been different during the Grand Prix? Of course, the Grand Prix was delayed because of rain, and then even when we did get the cars out on track, they were behind the safety car for the opening 4 tours of the Belgian track. Could it have been different? Should it have been different? I firmly believe it should have been. I already brought you a story basically in the aftermath of that straight away, going over some of the opinions on this. But I've got some more together now for you guys here on the F1Chronicle.com. Max Verstappen, of course, was a big critic of all this. But who else has been having their say of what was a grotesque decision from Formula One in some people's eyes? Let's have a look at the full article here on the site, guys, as always. Formula One's cautious approach to racing in the wet came under intense fire after a farcical Belgian Grand Prix on Sunday, with Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton and Dr. Helmut Marko leading criticism of the FIA's long delay and refusal to start in full wet conditions. Despite a wet setup gamble from Red Bull and others, the race was delayed for a painfully long time, beginning only after the heaviest period of rain had already passed, and with multiple laps behind the safety car before a rolling start. That's how you ruin a beautiful classic race in the rain, said Verstappen. You'd be better off saying, you know what, we'll wait until it's completely dry and we'll just start on slicks. That is not what a wet race is about. Often at loggerheads with the FIA, the 4-time world champion was highly critical once again. They just do what they want, they decide, said the Dutchman. I think it's a shame for everyone. You'll never really see those classic rain races again. Red Bull's Marko was equally blunt. We have to rethink the entire procedure. With 2 or 3 laps behind the safety car, we would have cleared the water from the track and be able to start an hour earlier. He added the delay ruined Red Bull's strategy. It meant our whole strategy with the rain settings was no longer valid. Without any problems, it would have been a safe race. FIA race director Rui Marquez was heavily criticised by several paddock figures and press outlets, with Marco calling the delay the biggest nonsense in Formula One, and Extra Bladet slamming F1's grotesque hesitation. Viaplay pundit and ex-F1 driver Heikki Kovalainen said, "We should be able to drive in this weather. This is a dangerous sport and you should be able to accept that. If you don't, then you're in the wrong sport." But others defended the caution. Charles Leclerc said, "On a track like this with what happened historically, I think you cannot forget about it. I'd rather be safe than too early." Race winner Oscar Piastri added, "Even with just Lando ahead of me, I couldn't see a thing. You can only imagine what it's like for the guys at the back." Carlos Sainz, who is also a co-director of the GPDA, called the decision correct, pointing to Spa's recent tragic history. "Given the bad history here, it's better to be overly safe than err on the side of excess risk." 7-time world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton, however, sided with Verstappen. "I kept saying we were ready to go. I think they were just overreacted, because the last time at Silverstone we told them not to start right away. This weekend it was the other way around." "I would definitely say I agree," he added, when asked about Verstappen's strong comments. We could have also just done a standing start. The line was almost dry and there wasn't much spray further on." Nico Hulkenberg called the long delay a mood killer, while Soy Motors' Jesus Munoz wrote, "Formula One has been stolen from us, and the worst part is that it's sure to get worse." Strong opinions, very strong opinions either side of things. I mean, listen, I'm kind of on the side of Hamilton and Verstappen on this. I do think that it is something that we could have easily gone racing earlier. We easily could have gone with a standing start. We easily could have gone without a safety car to parade around the first few laps. I think what probably happened is because Rui Marquez was the guy who was also doing the F3 and the F2. The F2 was tricky, and that ended under red flags a bit early because of that. We basically ended it a few laps early. Formula 3, on the other hand, which was on in the morning, that was farcical. There was no way they could run with that one. They were literally aquaplaning behind the safety car. And I said this at the time, Formula 2 and Formula 3 are very different to Formula 1, not just because of the cars, but also because of the drivers too. These are much more experienced drivers than what you get with the literal children in some cases that are racing in F3 and F2. And I do think that we could have been a bit more aggressive with race starts. I'm not saying that we should have gone with the full-on wet tyres maybe, because that is at the point where you're getting aquaplaning, you are getting spray that is making things impossible. I mean, even in the intermediate conditions at Silverstone 3 weeks ago at the previous round, there were incidents like what we saw with Isaac Hadjar, and that is dangerous when drivers literally cannot see a thing. he didn't get a penalty for that because even the stewards were like, nah, you couldn't see a thing. You had no chance. And then obviously again with Spa's recent tragic history, like of Antoine Hubert, that was only 6 years ago that he died at Spa. So I get the caution, but I think it's a bit too much. I think it was definitely right and fair to start that race earlier than what they did. I think it's simple as that. So it's a real balancing act. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. People are going to have opinions either way, but I think the FIA in this circumstance, in this example, they got it wrong. I think they delayed it far too long, and that was shown by the fact that even when we got racing, it wasn't that long until they were on the slicks. There's no reason why they couldn't have started it half an hour early. They could have started it on time, in my opinion. But yeah, guys, get your opinions in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to say about this as always. Do you think that the stewards were way too safe with this one? Were they overly safe with this weekend's race? I want to hear what you have to say as always, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of this, and have a great day wherever in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.